Food is an essential commodity. In fact, life hovers around food. But it's quite unfortunate that while some have it in abundance, others can't even find a grain. You're watching Rootstv Nigeria. There is a report that Nigeria's food is the most expensive in the world. How come? Nigeria is a giant of Africa. I mean, we're so blessed with arable lands. The agricultural sector seems to be doing so well. But with this report, I mean, we need to examine and check where we are getting it wrong. My guests today are experts in this field, and they'll be telling us why Nigeria's food is the most expensive in the world. Let's welcome Joseph Chukwu. He is with Plow Nigeria Network, an agro-allied company here in Nigeria. And Fortune Musa, he is an agro-economy expert. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm trying to see when you eventually move into that field fully. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Joseph, let's start with you. Why is Nigeria food so expensive?
Yes, the report from the World Food Program is not, it's very real, it's very true, because the figures are just telling the story. You understand? And in Nigeria, all over the world, food must be paid for, either by the government or by the people.
Yeah.
And all over the world, Nigeria budget, let's start with budget.
Okay.
On agriculture is one of the lowest. Last year we had 2.2 trillion. Now putting that vis-a-vis our population of 200 million, that is a sixth of Africa. 1/6. We have 1.2 trillion people in Africa, and Nigeria accounts for 200 million.
That's a large chunk.
A large chunk. One of every 6 Africans is in Nigeria. And we have only 2.2 trillion naira last year for agricultural production, agricultural development. And it is very clear that the remnant that is supposed to make up is being paid by the people.
But let me come to you, Fortune. 60% of our entire income, what we hustle for, I mean, let me use that term now, goes into buying of food.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that report?
Well, it's difficult not to believe it. Looking at some of the realities of our time today, we've got a terrible waste problem in the agricultural sector. So even though we have not attained food sufficiency, we still lose a lot of the agricultural produce that we have from between the farm and the market. Right. So whatever is left that comes to the market comes expensive because it's scarce. Secondly, we've got a security situation right now that is reducing the number of people who are going to the farms. Yeah. If a commodity is scarce, it becomes expensive. You know, so by the time you put these two things together, owing to the fact also that we still have not mechanized agriculture in Nigeria just yet, we're still using primitive tools and all of that. So the process of going through production is arduous and difficult. We waste all the food because we don't have roads to move the food to the markets.
But if you ask the agri minister, I mean, he will tell you we are doing so much, we're doing far better.
On paper, you would say so, because of course, over the last 5 years, a lot of grants from the CBN, from the African Development Bank and all of that have been channeled towards agriculture. Yeah. And then you have some big Nigerian companies who are getting into processing and production as well. But what they do is they do off-taking from the farmers, buy off the farmers, and process for export. And there's no food sufficiency in the country just yet.
I mean, that's serious. Joseph, can you relate with that? I mean, that's your core field.
Yeah, the truth is that we hear a lot of stories from the politicians.
Yeah.
But down there is a different ballgame.
Completely.
It's a different thing. Okay, let's talk about the rice revolution we are hearing all over the place.
Yes. And I remember clearly. Yeah. I mean, we have so much rice in Nigeria.
No, but truly the government has done some work in the rice sector, especially in the processing side. We've had more rice processing plants in Nigeria in the past 4 or 5 years than we've had before now. But the truth is that, how does it affect the common man? What is the price of rice now and before now? Yeah. So if it doesn't translate to that, then we are still in the rhetorical side. It must translate to what Mama Ngozi goes to buy rice
Yeah.
in the market, how much was she buying one mudu 5 years ago? How much is she buying one mudu now? That is what affects the life of the common man. I wish you're looking at that. If it only ends in the big rice fields, in the big rice mills, and it doesn't translate to the common man's economy, it doesn't make sense.
Then there's nothing.
Now, we, just like as he was saying, we're talking about production. There are so many factors that contribute to the cost of the food that comes to the market. Cost of production is one. Yeah. You see, Nigeria is one of the countries that has the highest cost of production of food in the world.
So it's clear. I mean, with this fact, it's clear why we have. Yeah, exactly.
This is where it's coming from. And then, sorry, just to add to that, we have a culture. If you remember from the days past, even the everyday discussion you have with an average Nigerian, the president made a remark recently about the idea of police losing weight. What was he talking about? The fact that if somebody is losing weight, it means he's working hard, he's under pressure. So our ideology is this. If you are adding weight, you are enjoying, you are living well, you know. So the more you eat, the more it shows that you are successful. But that's not the reality across the world.
Yeah, well, Chukwu, in New York has the least expensive $1 for a month compared to Nigeria, which is over 100,000 on what we spend on food in a month. What are they getting right that we're not trying out here?
Now, in Nigeria, we have over 80 million farmers.
Okay.
Very subsistent. Each of these 80 million farmers don't do up to a quarter of a hectare. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, they are not exposed to machineries. But in the US, a farmer has an average of 3 or 4 tractors. So they don't need up to 20% of the population.
I even hear they're even the richest in the US.
Yes. They don't need up to 20% population,
to achieve
feed
food.
the entire country and to export to places like China and the entire world. So the key is that there must be there's this infrastructure side of agriculture that the government must spend for the government to get any expectation from agriculture. The infrastructure side of agriculture is dying. In fact, in this year's budget proposal, they had to reduce the infrastructural budget on agriculture this year. Wow. So unfortunate. The roads, you see farmers in Benue, in Konshisha local government, they grow tomatoes because they can't transport the tomatoes and their oranges from there to the city, to Abuja, to other places they get market. All these things rot along the way.
Fortune, moving forward, I mean, how do we build Nigeria, build the individuals to ensure that at least we should be able to reduce how much we spend on food and probably make it cheap?
Well, first of all, in a place where there's no security, you cannot produce. If our security situation does not improve, we are going downward in a downward spiral, no matter what we do. You know, so we do an anchor borers program, we do build the value chain like we've said. If people cannot go to the farms, who will produce? So that's the first thing. If we don't have security, we're in trouble. And with what's going on in the country right now, we should have security as a priority. We should act as if security is a priority. We should respond to it with everything we have. Because without that, we cannot achieve food security. And then, secondly, we must prioritize change in this sector. Okay. We cannot budget for 200 million people as though we're budgeting for 5 million people and expect things to change. Yeah. We have to make it a priority in our budgeting, in our planning. If it shows as a priority in our planning, then we will have a different attitude to it. It's not, agriculture is not a political issue. Everybody has to eat. Regardless of what your leanings are, you have to eat.
No, but Joseph, after now, I mean, are you people going to make food cheaper for us?
Yeah, the issue is that the farmer doesn't have the final say. It's the market factors that determine what people buy products in the market. The market factors are population, demand. You know, we're also talking about population issue. You know, when you have 200 million people in one place,
And the
to
place is not
feed them.
increasing.
The place is not,
The
the
land mass is not
resources are not
increasing. The
increasing.
resources are not
The
increasing.
population is increasing at a higher geometry, more than the resources. So the little resources will be scrambled. And as it's being scrambled, the prices naturally go up.
Definitely.
So these are economic issues that no farmer can change unless the government, which is a stakeholder, the highest spender in the system, takes the lead to make things, just like he was talking about security. We are not serious in this country, honestly speaking.
Maybe we should just leave it at that. Well, Fortune Musa, an agroeconomic expert, and Joseph Chukwu from Plo Nigeria Network have been my guests on this very interesting issue about Nigeria having the most expensive food in the world. We hope after now, the federal government and the Ministry of Agriculture in particular will make moves to ensure that Nigerians do have enough to feed on and also bring down the cost of food. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm Itogo Madet. I'll see you again.